Hey, nobody's out there, right? Good. Dude, I just went running like this, and all of my self consciousness is kind of gone. Like, I usually go running and I have this kind of like, fuck you, like, I'm not going to get out of the way kind of thing. Like, I'm always like, you're not going to get the better of me. But I have this, I think, like, a lot, nobody cares, but just for record, I think a lot of my life, I've just been bitter because I have like a big nose and a melting face. And I kind of hate the world because of my ugliness. But if I can just kind of hide my ugliness, I'm a lot more like, whatever, you can push ahead of me, I don't care. I don't want to vie for power or like anything, like whatever. Everybody's free to do whatever they want. I don't care. But as long as I can cover my ugly melting lips, like my lips have like disappeared in my old age. I used to have like lips, and now my lips are all like disappearing. And then my nose, I've always had this big nose, and my nose is getting bigger the older I get. And then my hair is going gray. As long as I can dye my hair, cover my nose, and show my lips. Yeah, I mean, basically, as long as I don't perceive, I think as long as I don't perceive myself, as long as I do me, you know, like I'm just gonna do me. I don't give a shit what anybody else does. But I hate like that men can't wear makeup. It's like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not trying to sell anybody on my perspective. I'm not trying to get attention. I'm not trying to be special. It's just embarrassing and unsightly to look old and ugly. I hate it. I always hated being ugly. I always had this like ugliness. And the more that I can cover it up, kind of like the better I feel. And so if it doesn't fucking matter and I'm just going to die anyway, I'm just going to get old and die. And I just want to get old. As long as I can sort of like cover it up, cover up my ugly, aging ugliness. I don't hate the world as much. I'm like, oh, whatever. I don't care. I don't want status. I don't want like, I'm a man. You can have all the man stuff. You can have the status. You can have the glory. You the man. You're great. Whatever. Let me just not look ugly. I'm cool with whatever anybody else. Just let me not look ugly. I don't care about all the other competitions. I'm good. But I do want to like make videos to get rid of loneliness. But I expect nothing. I expect no attention. I expect no. I'm not like, hey, look at me. Just as if somebody does look at me, I don't want to look ugly. And so I'm pretty much good. All right, so now what do I want to do? I just want to feel alive. I want to feel alive. I don't want to be depressed. I don't want life to feel like a fucking nightmare. And so I'm just going to try to do little things to like tick off the boxes. Like I want to not feel dead. I want to get some exercise. I want to walk my dogs. I want to do some sort of creative pursuit that absorbs my mind. And I just want to feel alive and less. I don't want to feel depressed. Like, you know, life is a fucking nightmare every day. And so I got to do that myself. And I don't care what anybody else does. I don't care. Whatever you want to do, it's all good. Anyway, I was making this painting. I was making a little drawing. I do kind of like drawing, but I don't want to do it early in the day. I think it's kind of like a nighttime thing. I don't know, or like an early day thing. I want to work out first. I think working out before drawing is generally better. But I have this science girl. There's a science girl, and she's about to get a dildo in her ass. I don't know why. I just like that. I like this happy-looking Asian guy, and he's like, "Hey, science girl," and he's gonna stick a dildo in her butt. And then there's some moles going like, "Hey, that's yay, yay!" The moles are delighted. The moles are delighted that the guy is gonna stick a dildo. Dude, I feel so much better with this. Like all of my self-consciousness is mostly gone. I feel like I did when I was a kid because I didn't have this big nose and melting face. This really pleases me more than I don't know. I don't know how everybody else is wired. You know, there's that song. There's nobody else listening, right? But there's a song by Alicia Keys where she says, "Some people live for the power. Some people live for the fame. Some people live for the glory. Some people live just to play the game," or something like that. some people live for status. I don't care about status. I don't care about status. I don't care about money. Even if I had it, I'd be like, I don't care. I just want to not look bad. That's if I feel like I look okay, I'm fine. If I feel like I look like shit, I could have like a good job, or I could have like even a pretty girlfriend. Like if I look like shit and I had like a pretty girlfriend, I'd be like, I want to be pretty. I don't want my girlfriend to be pretty. And so I don't even care about getting women as much as just, I don't even care about women. I don't even expect to ever get a girlfriend. I just want to not look horrible. And I'm basically good. Anyway, there'll be some other problem later though. Anyway, so I'm working on this. And then I have this zombie guy. The zombie guy, he's shooting a lion out of his hands. He's got a lightning lion. He's shooting a lion out of his hands. And then the lion's about to attack this guy, and the guy's sitting on the toilet. He was not expecting a giant glowing lion to hit him in the face. But that's what he's going to get. The zombie guy's going to shoot a big green glowing lion, and then there's a grenade. Your standard grenade in a baby carriage, of course. Typical. And then you got your baby. This guy's consoling the baby. He's like, are you okay, baby? With your robot feet. And then there's a mech, just because mechs are great. And then there's a dragon. There's got to be a dragon. And then buildings. And I got to put a little building back there. And nobody cares, but just for the record, there's something, I don't know, it doesn't work quite as well as it used to, but I feel like, actually I don't even feel like, this is proven by science. I've determined, like I figured this out when I was in my 20s, something about isometric drawing, basically drawing where you have to, like line drawing where you have to like focus and you have to like think about the perspective, and you really have to, there's like a right answer, and you have to consider the perspective, and like even if you light it, like you have to think about where the light is coming from. I love that shit. I love like thinking and then making little decisions and having to like get the right answer. There's something about like having to focus, get the mark in the right spot, consider some different factors, and then thinking and acting. I guess video games probably do the same thing, I would imagine. Like video games, you have to consider some factors and you got to get the thing in the right spot. I should probably just play video games. Yeah, actually, I mean, I probably should. I love focus plus thinking, and then like having to get the thing in the right spot and stuff. Anyway, nobody cares, but just record, when I was 25 or 20, I used to just do copying. When I was in fine art programs, they used to have you just copy stuff, and I got good at copying. But then when I had to do perspective drawing, I was like, oh my god, this is so much more work. Like you have to do so much more thinking. And then I found out that it feels really good to think. Basically, like if I don't do this shit, I feel noticeably worse. And so I love having like a grip on my brain and just getting absorbed in something for hours. And so anyway, I asked ChatGPT. ChatGPT says, like basically that kind of improved my life. Like just when I discovered perspective drawing, I was like, oh, I feel so good after doing like 2 hours of perspective drawing. Not the coloring. I don't like the coloring. I like the thinking and getting the mark in the right spot part. And then I asked ChatGPT, like, is that like a thing with humans? Is there a thing with humans where it feels good to do like something like perspective drawing, something where you have to focus and you have to consider some different factors and you have to put a mark in the right spot, and there's like a right answer where the mark goes because you have to like consider some factors before you do something? That can be like a satisfying thing to do, and it can give you like better control of your life, right? Because you're like using your prefrontal cortex or something to like, you're thinking before you're acting rather than just reacting, right? Yeah, so I don't know how it works. I'm not trying to sell anybody on my perspective.
Yes, absolutely. You're describing...
I'm not trying to sell anybody on my perspective, but I am kind of trying to like help other people. This is my theory. I could be wrong, but I feel like I've never been in like another person's mind, but my theory is that like, and I can just ask this on ChatGPT. There's no reason to like theorize, but my looking at my stupid life at like 45, when I was a kid, I was just parked in front of a TV screen and I was just in reaction. I couldn't get off the couch. I was just eating food and being like, I can't control myself. I'm just stuck on this couch and I'm just passively taking in information. And I was like, God, I wish I could discipline myself to do something constructive. And then like, once I started doing, at least with me, once I started doing this shit, I think anything where you can sort of like actively grab control of your brain and think and make lots of decisions. I think basically like any practice where you can get a grip on your brain and act rather than react. Even just talking, like if I'm talking right now, I'm controlling my brain rather than reacting to some other shit on YouTube. And I just think that a lot of life is kind of like that. I think that when people are born, they're just dazzled by all this shit. And there's people like me who work at companies where they're like, we know that we want to put you in reaction. We want to put you on the defensive. And so we're going to get paid to generate like a bunch of shit to dazzle you and ensnare your attention. But meanwhile, we're getting to do what we want and you're in reaction. I think it's good to like break free of that. Like, I think it's good to just basically have something where you can act, even just talking. I'm not trying to, you can just ask this. So I just theorized something that I might just be pontificating bullshit. But now with ChatGPT, there's no reason to wonder if I'm full of shit anymore, because you can just, if that's true, there's data to substantiate what I'm saying. So I say, is it true that like, as a broad generalization, it's better to be active than reactive. And in a capitalist society, there's a lot of people who are actively constructing things and using their brain and oftentimes getting paid for it. But if nothing else, they're in control of themselves, and that can be better for your life in general. And then there's kind of unsuspecting young people who just kind of get dazzled by various things on screens, and they can kind of just end up in reaction, and it's kind of disempowering to be in reaction. Like if you can direct your own thoughts in your own body and maybe even get paid for it, that's typically a recipe for a better life. And it's conducive to discipline, right? Like that's kind of what discipline is being able to act rather than be in reaction, right? Is that true? Yes or no? Yes. So
Yes, as a broad generalization, what you're describing is widely considered true and beneficial.
So it's not even my theory. I just noticed this in my life, and I'm not trying to sell anybody on drawing, but I'm just saying that like when I was a kid, I'm not trying to assert superiority either. I'm just saying like I think some people don't know that. I think some people don't know that like there's millions of people trying to like ensnare your attention and be like, hey, like look at this, look at this, look at this movie. And when I was a kid, I was just getting raped. I was getting raped by TV shows and just video games. I was like, I can't control myself, and I hated those years. And then when I did this drawing shit, I think anything where you have to force yourself to think and grab control of your own mind and be like, I don't want to think about that movie, I don't want to play that video game, I want to like do my own fucking shit. It's good because then you can kind of like control your own mind rather than being like directed around by other shit. I think people get directed around by other shit anyway. Like it's kind of boring to just work in silence. But that for sure was a thing. At least for this thing in particular, perspective drawing, that was my version of like something that required a lot of thinking and getting a grip. I had to like focus and get a grip on my brain, and I had to like think my way through it and just actively thinking. Like when I'm talking right now, I'm actively thinking. I think anything where people, so again, you don't even have to pontificate anymore. You can say, wouldn't you say, testing, test, hey, you fucking piece of shit. Hey, so isn't there data to substantiate that anything where you're actively thinking, even just talking to yourself, or reading, or just anything where you have, the more thinking that you can do, and the more you have to assert thoughts and kind of do them in a correct, sometimes logical way, it can be like really beneficial for your life to not get stuck in reaction. It can give you like more discipline, and it can make you more sort of clear-headed, and it can just allow you to like construct your own stuff. You know, direct yourself towards your dreams, or row your own boat rather than be directed around by the tide of other people's garbage. Right? Isn't that true? Yeah, that's overwhelmingly true. So just, that's kind of what I'm trying to say, is if somebody's watching this right now, it's good to like listen to some people sometimes if they're like uplifting. Like I like to listen to Navy SEALs because they sort of make me feel like, it's nice to hear somebody who sounds like they're not afraid to die. I like to listen to Navy SEALs. It's comforting. But I think generally it's good to like be able to direct your own brain. If nobody's watching this, but if you feel sort of undisciplined, I think anything where you can like, something that you're passionate about, where you can like assert thoughts and like direct yourself, it's it's good. And if you do it like a little, anything like I don't know, running or reading or something like that, if you do it like a little, just you can always like go like a little further and like a little further, and then you can do like elaborate projects or something. You can like, I think a lot of like building your dreams is basically getting control of your brain and being like, fuck the other shit. Like, I want to assert my own thoughts. I want to control my own body. I don't want to get directed around by other people's stuff. I don't want to be controlled by external stuff as much. You can just ask that. So you could also translate that as being able to assert and direct your own thoughts and actions and physical actions, rather than having other people control your thoughts and your what you do with your time and stuff. That's a loose translation of what I said. Being active rather than in reaction, right? Yeah.
Yes, that's an excellent and very accurate.
So that's accurate. So just know, I'm not trying to say like, oh, like you're bad if you're not doing this. Everybody's in reaction to some degree, and it's not a perfect process. But like, I just think that's kind of, I like that idea that just there's a world of people out there who have been playing this game of life longer, and they're like, we're gonna dazzle you with some sort of bullshit. That's like, it's pleasant bullshit, right? Like, I liked being a kid, and I don't know, it's, it's fine. I don't care what anybody, but if you want to like control, if you're like, dude, I don't want to just like play, if you want to control yourself, if you want to like blow the winds of your own sail, that's the key to it. I think is basically just doing some sort of activity where you have to like assert thoughts. You got to think, you got to like figure it out. Just, I think asserting thoughts and like thinking your way through something and getting a grip on your brain and be like, I don't want to think about that, like distracting shit. I want to build my own goals and my own dreams. I think that's like there's things that can do that. You can just ask this. So testing, test. What are some activities that have been proven to make people better at that? Like, people have there's like different strokes for different folks, but like, is there data to substantiate that if you practice like programming is like really rigorous thinking where there's a right answer and you really have to like battle to assert a lot of thoughts, and it rewards you for more thinking and correct thinking. What are some other activities like that where like you can exercise control of your own mind? Like, I would imagine like reading is probably like that. Illustration where there's a right answer. Stuff that gives you control of your brain that's kind of pleasurable and gives you like better mental well-being and better able to like direct your own goals and dreams. Programming, yeah, so you're absolutely correct. There's substantial data to substantiate that activities requiring active, deliberate, and often logical thinking are profoundly beneficial for cognitive control, mental well-being, and life direction. Because you can kind of like wrestle yourself away from that shit. You don't get like absorbed in somebody else's shit. It's good to have like a strong mind and not get it like hijacked. And I'm always like about that. I'm always saying like, I don't know, I'm not trying to sell anybody a perspective. I'm just saying like, at least in my life, that's kind of that helped me to not just get like raped by TV and overeating. But it's not a perfect process. Sometimes I get hijacked by my whims and shit. Reading, learning a musical instrument, strategic board games. I'm not trying to sell anybody my perspective, but I'm just confirming that. I'm basically confirming that my lifestyle is like, I noticed this in my life, and I'm saying like, isn't this kind of a thing? And so I'm not trying to convert anybody. I'm just saying that like, that's kind of why I very distinctly remember like when I first started doing like perspective drawing, I was like, oh, this is really hard. You can't just put the marks anywhere. And then, but the more that I did it, the better I had like a grip on my fucking life, and I could work out better. Like if I did this, I was like, oh, I can like discipline myself, because you kind of have like a grip on your own mind, and you're like, I want to think this, and I want to do this. I want to direct my own. I want to stay to my body. We're doing this shit now. We're not gonna like just space out. And so, what's the point? I don't know. I think that. So again, like, I'm not trying to sell you my perspective, but like, there's data to. I think there's lots of things that you can do to like get a grip on your mind, assert your own thoughts, but it's not a perfect process. It takes like, you're gonna like get knocked off track regularly. So what's your point? I don't know. There's different philosophy. I hear Joe Rogan says like, I know you want to have like control, but like sometimes it's good to have it's good to not have control. Yeah, I don't know. It's good to be out of control. Whatever you want. But I'm just saying like, if you're like me, if you're like when I was a teenager, if you're just stuck on the couch and just like, dude, I don't even want to be watching this show. I wish I could like pursue my dreams. That's that key to it, is basically like regularly, like for like an hour a day or more, doing something where you have to like actively think, and there's like a right place to put the marks, and you gotta like think and then have your body act based on what you're thinking. There's like lots of different things to do that. Get a grip on your mind and then make your mind tell your body what to do. That's like a good practice. Anyway, what's the point? I always say this thing where it's like, I'm not trying to sell anybody on my perspective, but I am actually. I'm trying to sell somebody. If you're like if you feel out of control, and you want to like do some kind of dream thing that requires thinking and like constructing, and basically active. That's a way to do it. It's just ways to get a grip on your mind. Anyway, it's not even me saying it. It's backed by data. See, I don't have to. Anyway, that's it. So why don't you do you, Sean? I am doing me, but I don't want to just be a selfish fuck. Totally. I want to try to. I want to share my little things that I figured out in my stupid life. That's the main. I just noticed that. I really distinctly remember just when I started doing perspective drawing, I was like, oh, life is getting like better and less chaotic for me. Anyway. But there's different things to do. Anyway. Okay, so now what? Now I want like a little chaos. Now I want to feel alive. I want a hamburger, no cheese. I want French fries. I want a milkshake. I want baby milk. You'll have nothing like it. Oh, poor baby, poor baby. Dude, I love this fucking nose. I'm just gonna wear this all the fucking time. The lipstick is good too. You know, back in movie times, people wore lipstick. It looks better. There's a reason why people wear lipstick, because you want to see your lips. It just looks better. Isn't it true back in like the 1920s and stuff? People wore lipstick, like male actors wore lipstick, because you can see their lips. It's better for like expression. It's easier to understand how somebody's talking and how they're expressing themselves if you can see their fucking lips. Right? Yeah.
Yes, you are absolutely right.
Absolutely right. I'm just doing this from now. I'm going to get some blue lipstick. I'm going to wear blue lipstick every day. I'm going to wear a fucking animal nose every fucking day. Because it's too unsightly. The oldness is getting like too bad. But as long as I can cover it with something, it's fine. I like the, nobody's listening, right? But I like the idea that like, even a pretty person is basically covering their ugliness. Because if you ripped off their fucking face, this is kind of a weird idea, but they're ugly from some perspective. If they, underneath their skin, they're fucking ugly, and so they're covering their ugliness with skin. But then if you're old, you can cover your skin with another layer, because those pretty people, they're just covering their inner ugliness with some shit. They have some shit on their face that's covering a very ugly thing on the inside. Because if you saw them from the inside, you'd be like, Jesus Christ, you look like a fucking Freddy Krueger without your fucking skin. Yeah, they're covering their Freddy Krueger self with some skin. But then if you get old, you can cover your skin with some ornaments. It's the same shit. Everybody's ugly. Everybody's ugly from a certain point of view, as every proctologist knows. Yeah? Can you substantiate that? Testing. Hey, can you work, please? Hey, wouldn't you say that everybody's ugly from a certain point of view, and that most proctologists and people who stick like endoscopes up people's butts, they know that everybody's ugly from certain points of view, right?
That's an interesting and somewhat philosophical take on ugliness and...
In essence, a proctologist is looking at a specific part of the body. So while it might be a bit traumatic, it's certainly true Yeah, a proctologist knows that everybody's ugly from a certain point of view. They're like, damn, that pretty woman. You put an endoscope up her butt. She's not so pretty on from a certain point of view. Anyway, what's the point? I like that. I like that idea. So you can, if you can control the point of view with some external shit, I say that's what I want to do. Anyway.